Good evening and welcome to an evening edition of the Iman Report. It is Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. And yes, sports leagues are starting to emerge from their suspended seasons and trying to figure out what their futures hold for them post COVID. So, one thing that the first league we'll discuss is Major League Baseball. This is one where I think we might be seeing a canceled league, where I think we're heading for a canceled season. Unfortunately, the MLBPA and the owners are way too far apart on a deal, and it's getting into June. They were aiming for 4th of July. I think if there's no season by the 4th of July, I think we will see a canceled baseball season. The big losers in all this, and I'm probably won't hurt my feelings either, would be the dreaded LA Dodgers. They would Mookie. There'll be a lot of questions if the Dodgers would be able to keep Mookie in a lost season, and the window might be closing on the Dodgers. Kershaw, he's showing some regression, so the Dodgers could certainly be a big loser in a canceled season. The New York Yankees, who were going to chase a ring and were probably favorites to win it all this year, they will be big losers in a canceled season. The small market teams are now trying to stop paying their players. The Oakland A's, they've failed to pay they're not paying the rent on the Coliseum since they're not playing. That could potentially lead to some legal action, and doesn't exactly bode well when you're trying to build a new stadium in the city of Oakland. If the Coliseum Authority seeks legal action after the Oakland A's, especially if the season's canceled, do the A's start looking at possibly Las Vegas? Las Vegas could certainly be a future franchise for baseball. Las Vegas has hockey now. The NFL's coming to Las Vegas. So Las Vegas is turning into a sports city, so it wouldn't be a total shock if we end up seeing the A's move to Las Vegas in a canceled season. So yeah, I'm a San Francisco Giants fan. Granted, it's not gonna hurt them too bad. They're probably going to tank this season anyways. But unfortunately for the prospects, they lose a year of development. That's bad for Joey Bart, bad for Helio Ramos, bad for some of the young pitchers developing. Logan Webb, Sean Jelly, he's supposed to probably start the season in Double-A. So yeah, a lot of the prospects are certainly going to lose a year of development. So they're looking at probably 2021. And who knows? Hopefully maybe we'll start seeing a vaccine by then. Treatments will certainly be better by then. So I think for baseball, it's time to think 2021. And their inability to reach an agreement for baseball probably means that doesn't exactly bode well with the CBA coming up next year. That could be a sign that baseball could be nearing a lockout. So baseball, I think, is the farthest away from seeing their season come, and I think they are looking at a canceled season. All right, let's get to more of the positive news. NBA looks like they are nearing an agreement to return. Right now, they are trying to get feedback if it's going to be if they're going to resume the regular season, or if they're going to go to a tourniqueted season and go right to the playoffs, which the NHL's doing. I'll get to the NHL in a moment. It's starting to look like they're discussing a 20 to 24 team playoff. So that's what the NBA. So you might see a round robin tournament, but that's what the NBA is looking at right now. So you'd probably see the top 12 teams from each conference get into the NBA playoffs in that scenario. The NBA is looking at Walt Disney World to hold all venues for NBA for the rest of the season. Smart move. Testing capacity is ready. And NBA is starting to get practice facilities back up and running. So that's good news there. So in the East, if we do go to the 12-team format, the New York Knicks would make the playoffs at 21-45 as a 12. The Chicago Bulls would be an 11 seed. The Charlotte Hornets would be a 10 seed. Washington Wizards, the 9 seed. Orlando Magic, the 8. Brooklyn Nets, the 7. Philadelphia 76ers, the 6. Indiana, the 5. Miami, Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee would probably get the first round byes. In the Western Conference, your 12 seed would be the San Antonio Spurs. So that would maybe be a nice send off for Greg Popovich, who I kind of think it's time for Greg Popovich to retire in San Antonio. San Antonio is probably going to have to go through a retool next year. And San Antonio would be the 12 seed and would barely make it. The 11 seed, the Sacramento Kings. This would be their first time in a NBA postseason since 2003. So this would be really good news for Sacramento, and they are up and coming. The 10 seed would be the New Orleans Pelicans. The 9 seed, the Portland Trailblazers, who's had a very disappointing season. The 8 seed, the Memphis Grizzlies. The 7 seed, the Dallas Mavericks. The 6 seed, the Houston Rockets. The 5 seed, the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Jazz, Nuggets, Clippers, and Lakers would probably be the 4 teams that would get the round robin byes. So that's where we're possibly looking at and standing at with the NBA, is that they are going to go through it. What the NHL, I'm going to discuss that in a moment. And looks like they're going towards a 12-team playoff format like the NHL is going to do. Speaking of the NHL, they just held a meeting yesterday. It's almost all but guaranteed that the NHL will resume sometime later this summer. And the NHL will have a 12-team playoff. The top 4 teams will do a round robin, and then the 5 through 12 seeds would have a qualifying round. Right now, the NHL is under. Right now, what's fluid situation is the hub cities. There could be one Western hub city, one Eastern hub city. We'll find out where it could. If it were me, it would probably go Las Vegas and New York. Now that New York is getting ready to resume sports, as along with Las Vegas. I'll get to Las Vegas later when we talk UFC. But the NHL, right now they are under phase 1. And they will allow around, looks like early June, they will allow 6 players or less to start skating. So that's where the NHL is. They're nearing a point where they're going to allow players to start skating in the next couple weeks. And then once they get to phase 3, that'll be NHL training camp. And then phase 4 will be game on. And you will have the round robin. But this is official. The NHL will do a 24-team playoff, probably starting around the end of July or take a look at the standings. Look elsewhere for the standings. Yeah, I am going to go ahead and talk a little San Jose Sharks. Since I am a San Jose Sharks fan, and the Sharks will not be part of this 2014 playoff, unfortunately. So in the Eastern Conference, the 12th seed will be the Montreal Canadiens. They will play the Pittsburgh Penguins. The 11th seed is the New York Rangers. They will play the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round. The 10 seed is the New York Islanders, and they will play the Florida Panthers. And then the the Toronto Maple Leafs will play I think they're playing Montreal's playing Columbus in the first round. And then Philly, Boston, Tampa Bay, and Washington get the byes. In the West, your 12 seed will be the Chicago Blackhawks, will be your 12. So all teams in the Central Division will make the Stanley Cup playoffs. Chicago will play Edmonton in the first round. And then you got the Arizona Coyotes as your 11 seed. They will play the Nashville Predators in round 1. Your 10 seed is the Minnesota Wild. They will play the Vancouver Canucks. And then the Nashville Predators will play the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets will play the Calgary Flames. So those are your, with St. Louis, Colorado, Dallas, and Vegas getting your first round byes. And for the Sharks, this is not good. This is not going to be a fun offseason for the San Jose Sharks. They are certain the flat cap this offseason is not going to help. Doug Wilson's going to need to hope to get a compliance buyout, which I don't think is going to happen. But you might have $7 million in cap space to spend this offseason to retool. So for the Sharks, I certainly think they will look at an in-house option to replace Brendan Dillon on the D-line. They could look at Brinson Pasichnuk to take over for. That's a possibility. You've got Nick DeSimone, who's got one more year left. Okay, Jacob Middleton, he's an RFA. So I think Middleton, 50-50, he comes back. Tim Heed, I doubt he returns with the Sharks. Tim Heed's been a mainstay in the Sharks press box the last couple seasons. I think it's time for Tim Heed to look at greener pastures. Joe Thornton, a UFA. Thornton, I don't think he comes back next year. Melker Karlsson, not at $2 million, he does not come back. You've got Marcus Sorensen for one more season, and Sorensen is a guy who's got to step it up next year. Sorensen certainly took a big step back this last season. Marcus Sorensen, it's prove it time. This is his last year on his contract, and then he will be a UFA in 2021. Kevin Labanc, RFA. He gets maybe a 1 or 2 year contract at $2 million. Labanc, I think he comes back. Joel Shellman. Shellman was very serviceable on the fourth line. I would bring back Joel Shellman. Noah Gregor, you bring him back, and Noah Gregor's got the speed. I would love to see it if he can just get the goal scoring to match the speed. Noah Gregor is a guy to watch for the Sharks next year. Alex True, fourth line on the wing. Stefan Nason, you bring him back. Antti Suomela, I think they're going to probably let him walk. Dylan Gambrell next year is going to be put up or shut up time for him. He's got probably one, and next year his contract is a one-way contract, so he's got a Aaron Dell, let him walk. But they certainly are going to have to look to find goal scoring on the cheap, since the Sharks might have $7 million to spend in free agency. So you got to make it count. Get some players on the wing. You're going to have defensemen. You can bridge somebody, maybe DeSimone, if you could maybe get by with a guy like DeSimone for 1 year, or you could go with Pasichnuk next season. That's an option. But I don't see Jeremy Waugh coming back next year. Ryan Merkley, I think he will be with the Barracuda. He will start next season with the Barracuda. He is the future. He is definitely going to be a guy to watch with the Barracuda next season. Other guys who need to step it up next year, Bickfeld. He could either start next season with the Sharks or the Cuda. Alexander Shamlevsky and Ivan Chekovich. Those were two disappointments with the Cuda. Hopefully they can get it together. Jonathan Dahlen has opted to go overseas. Dahlen will not be with the Sharks organization next season. But unfortunately, we'll see what happens. I don't expect them to get back in the playoffs next year. This could be the last year we see Doug Wilson as a general manager. I don't think he's going to get fired, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hasso Plattner kicks him upstairs if the Sharks have another disappointing season. It's almost looking like it's probably going to be Bob Boughner as the head coach next year. I am not the biggest fan of Boughner, but maybe a short-term contract. The Sharks are a mess, and Boughner is going to have to be a teacher next year. Certainly, I don't want Roy Somner to go back to the Cuda next year. The Barracuda need to have some fresh blood this offseason. Maybe Ricci coaches the Cuda, but this is there needs to be some culture change with the Barracuda. Sharks got to develop some players down in the Cuda next year. The backup goaltending situation's a mess. They're probably going to have to sign a free agent. What scares me is the possibility you might have Joseph Cornosh be your backup goalie next year. Zachary Emond, he could certainly be up with the Cuda next year. Alexei Melnichuk could be a guy that Alexei Melnichuk, he might be the backup for the Sharks. That's a possibility. They might ride with Melnichuk, backing up Martin Jones. Andrew Shortridge, I don't think he's back next year. And then you've got Alexander Sawchenko, who showed some flashes. Cornosh trending down. So I would not go with Cornosh next year. But he's got Doug Wilson's really going to regret signing that EK65 contract. And if things get nuclear, Doug Wilson could be forced to trade Evander Kane. A lot of these contracts might be unmovable. Brent Burns, no trade. Mark-Edward Vlasic, no trade. Martin Jones, no trade. His atrocious contracts all around. And that EK65 could really rear its ugly head next season. So if things really go south for the Sharks next year, don't be surprised if we see Evander Kane be the odd man out, unfortunately. That's hockey for you. Now on to UFC. Nevada just gave them the right to go back to Las Vegas. They gave them the green light. So UFC will be airing fights at the Apex Next 2 fights will be at the Apex. Fight Bahamas is being, so it looks like Fight Island will be in the Bahamas. So that could be up and running very soon. And that's where your international fights could be. So UFC, they are going strong. Boxing coming back. PGA will be back in another month. NFL certainly going to get back on time. And with states getting ready to give the green light to resume sports, training camps could be starting on time or slightly delayed. So good news there. Or other NFL teams could, shall I say, okay, could improvise and go to maybe another training facility for a while. But NFL, they're going to get back on time here. Training camps should be starting soon. And I don't expect NFL to miss a beat, but don't expect fans in the stands this year. Hopefully I could do some more non-UFC in the future. Everybody have a great night. Stay safe. Good night.